Welcome to Economy Roast, the show for sharp, in-depth economic analysis featuring world-class experts. If you're looking for a clear and objective perspective, you're in the right place. Let's dive deep into today's topic.
Los Angeles coffee shop owner Jon Kinnard is bracing for a bitter future as the Trump administration's new 50% tariff on Brazilian coffee threatens to upend his business. The tariff, set to take effect on August 1, 2025, has sent shockwaves through the coffee industry and is a particular concern to small business owners like Kinnard who rely on Brazilian coffee beans. At his Coffee del Mundo shop in South Los Angeles, which has been in business for 6 years, Kinnard roasts his own beans and creates coffee blends for his wholesale customers using Brazilian beans.
And the reason why Brazilian coffee is so key in our wholesale business is because it's the foundation for most blends, because of its affordability, because of its accessibility, and its consistency is pretty much found in almost every blend you can find out there on the market. And so we like using this bean when we refer to our wholesale customers because of the low price point. In comparison to a single origin, we're talking almost maybe $3 difference per pound.
The tariff comes at a particularly challenging time for the coffee industry, which has already seen sharp price increases due to production shortages and changing weather patterns in Brazil. Now coffee shop owners face difficult decisions: absorb the cost increases, pass them on to customers, raise prices, or potentially compromise on quality. Kinnard and other small business owners are exploring alternatives, such as Colombian coffee, but acknowledge that the unique qualities of Brazilian beans, and especially their price point, make them hard to replace. Kinnard says he is not against the Trump administration's tariff policies, but argues that coffee shouldn't be subject to tariffs given the U.S.'s limited domestic production capacity. The U.S. coffee industry has long relied on imports, with the country producing only about 1% of the coffee it consumes. Brazilian coffee has been particularly crucial due to its affordability and versatility in blends. Recent years have seen challenges, including a 70% spike in coffee prices last year due to production shortages.
I would call Brazil the entryway into the coffee world because of the price point consistency, and so now it's going to be harder to get into the industry. It's going to be harder to find a good business model because a typical coffee shop margin is only about 5%. And so we're fighting to find that profit within that 5%. And now with this, we're gonna have to get really creative.
The August 1, 2025 tariff threatens to reshape the U.S. coffee landscape, potentially altering long-standing supply chains and business models. With Brazil producing a third of all coffee used in the U.S., the impact could be far-reaching, affecting everyone from small cafe owners to large coffee chains, and ultimately U.S. consumers. U.S. core inflation rises sharply due to impact of import tariffs. American consumers likely saw a rise in core inflation in July 2025 as retailers began adjusting prices on goods subject to higher import tariffs. According to a Bloomberg survey of economists, the Core Consumer Price Index, CPI, a measure of inflation that excludes volatile factors like food and energy, is forecast to have increased by 0.3% in July 2025. This is higher than the 0.2% rise in June 2025 and marks the strongest monthly increase since the beginning of the year. The new U.S. import tariffs have begun to have a clear impact on retail prices, especially for household goods and entertainment equipment. However, another index measuring core services inflation remains low. A decrease in gasoline prices helped curb the overall CPI increase, which is expected to have risen by only 0.2% in July 2025. Many economists believe the impact of tariffs will continue to spread in the coming months. The official report is scheduled to be released by the U.S. Department of Labor on August 12, 2025. This development poses a challenge for the Federal Reserve, the Fed, which has kept interest rates unchanged since the start of the year, citing the need for more time to assess whether tariffs will cause sustained inflation. Meanwhile, the labor market, the other pillar of the Fed's dual mandate, is showing signs of cooling. Under cost pressure, many businesses are trying to avoid passing the entire tariff burden onto consumers, especially price-sensitive customer groups. Economists forecast that retail sales data for July 2025, to be released on August 15, 2025, will show a significant increase thanks to car purchase incentives and the major Amazon Prime Day sales event, which attracted a large number of shoppers. According to experts, with a series of new tariffs on imported goods from dozens of U.S. trade partners, Mr. Trump's foreign trade policy is expected to cause costs for American businesses and consumers to soar. Even if they don't raise prices immediately, it's very unlikely that businesses will be willing to absorb these additional costs forever, consumer finance expert Matt Schultz of LendingTree told CBS Money Watch. According to Schultz, the initial impact of tariffs on consumer prices was quite muted, as businesses are often reluctant to be the first in their industry to raise prices. Some businesses wait for tariffs to stabilize before adjusting retail prices, while others try to absorb the costs to retain customers. However, these measures cannot be sustained indefinitely. Nobody wants to be the first to raise prices, even if there's a completely legitimate reason, Schultz said, adding, "I think once some businesses start raising prices, others will be emboldened to follow suit." This could lead to a wave of businesses announcing price hikes, with some already warning about the impact of tariffs or applying a tariff surcharge to offset the increased costs. To date, Mr. Trump's tariffs on goods from trade partners have brought in tens of billions of dollars for the U.S. budget. In July alone, the U.S. Treasury Department reported collecting about $30 billion from import duties, a 243% increase compared to the same period in 2024. Mr. Trump has suggested this revenue could be used to pay down the national debt, which now exceeds $36 trillion, or to issue tax rebates to the American people. A tariff is a tax that the importer pays to U.S. Customs when goods are cleared at U.S. ports. Consequently, U.S. businesses often pass most, if not all, of this cost on to consumers through prices. There is currently very little evidence that foreign exporters are lowering their prices for the U.S. market, said Gregory Dacco, chief economist at EY Parthenon. There are no clear signs of price reductions from exporting countries. This indicates that they understand it is the importing businesses, American companies, and ultimately American consumers who are the main bearers of this tariff-induced inflation wave, he added. From consumer electronics companies to automakers, many have begun to feel the negative impact of Mr. Trump's trade policy. Toyota reported a 37% loss in the second quarter and said it had cut its full-year profit forecast largely due to the impact of tariffs. Other automakers also said they expect profits to decline. GM forecasts that the damage from tariffs could reach up to $5 billion in 2025, while Ford said tariffs would cut its revenue by $3 billion. Liquor companies are not immune. Diageo, the maker of Guinness beer, estimates that tariffs will cost them an additional $200 million per year. Back in May, Walmart warned that higher tariffs would force it to raise prices on a range of items in its supermarkets, from bananas to child safety seats. Some companies have stated frankly that they are forced to pass the increased costs from tariffs on to consumers by raising prices. For instance, audio equipment company Sonos said during its third quarter earnings call that it would increase product prices due to higher tariffs on Vietnam and Malaysia, where its devices for the U.S. market are manufactured. Overall, according to the Budget Lab Policy Research Center at Yale University, American consumers will have to pay an average of 18.3% more for imported goods. Economist Dacko said the higher costs businesses face from tariffs are gradually seeping into product prices. The current average tariff rate has reached about 18%, the highest level in decades. As a result, inflation will continue to be pushed up, especially for both durable and non-durable consumer goods. This will increase pressure on consumer price inflation and lead to a noticeable decline in household spending as people find it increasingly difficult to cope with the new prices, he remarked. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump continues to promote tariffs as a tool to reduce the trade deficit and support manufacturing jobs. He has also reassured the public that the cost of the tariffs will be paid by foreign exporters, while calling on retailers and automakers to absorb the additional costs. The administration has always maintained that the cost of the tariffs will be paid by foreign exporters, those who depend on the world's largest consumer market in the U.S., White House spokesman Kush Desai told CBS News. Despite pessimistic forecasts of inflation and recession, 4 months after Liberation Day, inflation is trending back toward the lowest annual rate since President Trump's first term, while a recent analysis by the Council of Economic Advisors shows that the actual price of imported goods is falling.
These are the latest updates we wanted to share with you. Thank you for watching Economy Roast. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming analysis.